Aloha, Rita. Mahalo. Uh, that was a wonderful introduction and makes it sound really awesome. I guess, firstly, yes, aloha mai kako to everyone who's joining from across the Pacific and around the world. I'm very humbled and honored to be here in this virtual space alongside Vince and with Larry and Mark. I want to thank you for that beautiful blessing at the start of this session to really um, establish this space and set the tone for the conversation, because these things truly are sacred, this ancient wisdom. And I know Nainoa oftentimes will use the word magic, but I know that that encompasses sacred in how we describe these things. And again, Kalamai, we apologize. He wasn't able to be here. Even I was looking forward to watching this conversation between the three of you, and certainly was surprised to be on the panel itself. I will try to honor the spirit of his message, but I'm certain I will fall short of it. So I just wanted to put that out there, and a big thank you, and recognizing each of you for allowing me to be here and share a little bit about maybe a perspective from another generation, I suppose. Nainoa sometimes refers to us as the younger generation, and then equally reminds us that we are already old. And for those who may not know, this relationship between Hawaii and Guam and Micronesia and the many islands really was forged long ago. We always bring honor to Mau for connecting us all those years ago when Hokule'a was constructed and went on her very first voyage in 1976. And that gift he gave of teaching and that gift of navigation is something that has continued to give for years and years. And we are now, in the second and third generation of learning and always trying to remember as much as we can, knowing we never get to meet some of these people, we never get to see them, but certainly their words and their lessons are embodied in this wisdom that we hope to carry on. So we'll try to do that, honor and as much as we can. Rita had mentioned that I'm the Voyaging Director at Polynesian Voyaging Society here in Hawaii, and we have two double-hulled canoes that were constructed at different times, but part of my work is dually envisioning what voyaging looks like in the future, especially, of course, here in Hawaii, but also alongside many of our voyagers in the Pacific, and ensuring that we do remember the stories and the history and the teachers that really allowed us to do all of this and have brought us to this point. Gosh, there's, I was listening so closely, Larry, to you and Vince, that I forgot that I had to talk at the end, and probably will eventually find my way to something that hopefully is helpful. Maybe to touch on what Rita had mentioned, we recently returned from a circumnavigation around the world that would not have been possible without all of these gifts we were given. And we worked to really ensure that the intensity and the power of navigation could hopefully be shared into another generation. And we continue to work on that to this day as we think about what our next voyage looks like. The number one, or one of the first things that comes to mind is how do we address the leadership of these canoes? There you mentioned, we never question the navigator's decision and what they do, and that is a huge responsibility for that person. And I guess a nice way I like to think about the role of a navigator and their purpose. I've heard that, you are the light, you are meant to shine things. And I also think of it as someone who is there to protect life. You are there, you are the one who is going to make the decisions that affect everyone on your canoe. And you are going to make sure that we have the resources and we have the plan to get through, whatever we may be sailing through. And these lessons have not just stayed out at sea, they have certainly come onto land and found a home in many places. When we sailed around the world, our message was Ma'alama Honua. It is a Hawaiian phrase that simply means to care for the earth. And it's, again, it's so simple and can have so many different ways of being interpreted by different communities that have different needs and different situations. And it's something that has carried forward, and I find myself saying it all the time, and it's great because now even other people in the community will come up and say, yeah, malama honua, everybody, if they're like telling someone to like pick up trash off the ground. And so it's really great to see that. I guess I do want to, I briefly scrolled through the participants, and I saw some wonderful friends and colleagues who were part of that voyage around the world and allowed it to happen. You mentioned Mimi George, Vince, and Mimi Hai was also able to join us on many legs of that voyage and bring all of that wonderful work that she continues to do with Taumako. I saw Celeste and Kate there as well, who additionally were able to help us understand how the lessons we learn on voyages and on our canoes could be impactful in places we don't necessarily have all of the expertise. They were a wonderful source of guiding us through the United Nations and the events we did with them, and also creating the Hawaii Green Growth, which has done a lot of work to bring sustainability to the forefront here in Hawaii, and hopefully we will continue to build on that over the coming years. Gosh, I have so many thoughts, but yeah, maybe back to my work in how we protect and how we perpetuate this gift that was given to us. Through the voyage, there were a number of us, young folks, young at the time maybe, who were able to learn some of the elements of navigation from Nainoa and from Bruce, and some of the navigators who were lucky to sail with. By no means are we any sort of masters. We are preschoolers. Nainoa says he's in kindergarten, and we are certainly whatever comes before kindergarten, in just beginning to understand how to learn about the world around us and this earth and the life systems that make sure that we can live healthy lives. And what we've done with that is try to, I don't want to use the word scale, I don't really like that word, but try to understand how we can reach more of our young people who don't get that opportunity to sail out on the open ocean with us. It's a very challenging thing to do. It takes many years of training. And so my work has been focused in on some of our younger folks who are certainly really passionate voices in our community. They may still be in high school or at the university level, to help train them in a little bit of getting in the water and challenging some of their fears about the ocean space that they live in, and also understanding some of those lessons. So that has been a real blessing for me to be able to learn as I get to teach. For my own personal experience in voyaging, I started in 2009 to just begin to learn voyaging and sailing and training with Nainoa. And that was the beginning of getting ready for this circumnavigation, and I had no idea what I was doing. And certainly in that journey, I have come to understand the priceless parts of this world that allow me to navigate. I tend to focus on birds a lot when I talk about sustainability and conservation, because I think about the times that we are nearing an island on a canoe and we've been at sea for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And I like to think, at that point, we're not navigating, we're simply looking for nature's navigators sometimes. And I think about the seabirds and the ones that nest on the island and come out and show us where to go. and they're the ones that are really guiding us. And so really it's not necessarily my job to know where to go. It's my job to make sure that those birds are still around and they still have little nesting holes in the cliffs, and that their environments are protected so that they can continue to allow us to find these islands. And so I guess that's one area that I like to think has really made me think about, you know, the birds and the fish and the weather systems that have been so consistent for so many generations and centuries for all of the seafarers in the Pacific to find these small islands, and how now seems to be a time that those things maybe aren't as consistent. You know, each year you say, oh, this, you always say like, oh, it's never like this, or it's never been this stormy during this time of the year, or it's never been this windy, or, you know, the tides have never been this high. And looking back on those generations of wisdom and observance and carefully tracking what goes on really allows you to see in a very raw manner what's happening out there. And you have an emotional connection to it because you realize that this is the ocean and the land that sustains you, and these small changes are not insignificant. It's not like, oh, you know, I'm sure it's just today, but you notice that the next day and then the next year. Oh boy, maybe something that I hope is additionally what Nainoa would have wanted to bring to this conversation is the deep respect and aloha that this community in Hawaii has for our brothers and sisters in Guam and in Lamatrek and in Sadawal and in the many islands of Micronesia, who in many ways we envy you because, or should I say, we're inspired by your community and your ability to stay so tight-knit, and in a way that sometimes we can get a little lost in the city world of Honolulu, I'll call it. It can be very urban, and you can feel sometimes disconnected from those who might have the same ideas or share the same vision for what these islands should look like and perhaps should return to. And so that's always an inspiration to see such a clarity of vision that I know we need. And again, I apologize, and I know I wasn't able to join us, and I know he looks forward to your next conversation again, Vince and Larry. But maybe with that, I'll just say mahalo nui, and look forward to your questions.